Hey everybody, I'm just about to begin work on a new piece for Magic the Gathering, and it's for a new plane that I haven't done any work in prior. I believe it's a space opera setting, and by the time this comes out, everybody's going to know more about that than I do right now. So I won't say too much more about that. But I just received an assignment from Zach Stella, who is one of the art directors at Magic, and the piece that I'm being asked to do, the title that we get is usually not the actual title unless it's a reprint of an existing card. So this one, I don't know what the title of it's going to be, but working title is Gavel of the Righteous. And it looks like it's I believe it's an item card. Colorless mana. And it's a extended border card, so I need to plan this to fit the normal border of a card, and then once I've designed that, expand it outward so that it can do a full bleed for the alternate printing. And the description I'm getting here is show a pinnacle-aligned gavel, ornate and decorated, held in a robotic hand, and then a reference to look at some style guide pages here. Maybe we see it hefted over the robot's head as though it's about to strike the block, and the focus of the piece is the gavel, and the mood of the piece is judgment has been served. And I always like with these magic assignments, they give you a description, which is usually fairly brief, and the description might include references, as this one does, to style guide pages. We always get, for every new release, there's a style guide so that everybody has an understanding of what the general design of costuming and environments and all that kind of thing looks like from one plane to the next. But I like that they give you focus and mood for each piece. So you get that description of what the piece is going to look like, and then the focus tells us what to prioritize, and then the mood obviously is the general emotional feeling of the piece. So in this description, just very short, just a gavel held over, or a gavel held in a robotic hand, possibly over a judge's head as about to strike the block. That focus on the gavel tells me that I'm not going to want to do something where it's like focusing on the robot holding the gavel, but it's really got to be the focus on the gavel in the robot hand. So yeah, I'm just kind of taking this in. I haven't looked at the style guide yet, so I'm going to download that next and have a peek. I won't be able to share any of that because anything contained in there is NDA, but I will definitely share once I start getting into my thumbnails and sketches and see where this goes. So getting into this piece with the gavel, I decided when I saw that you could get an actual gavel on Amazon for like $13 to just go ahead and get one, and it just arrived. Okay. It's a little, our gavel's, it's a little smaller than I thought it would be. I don't know if this is, I guess that's about the size of a gavel. I might make it larger for the painting. Obviously, I'm going to embellish this a lot. I don't know exactly what the design will be. Oh, it's got a little. Now I can gavel my painting sessions in order. I don't do a lot of item or artifact pieces, and when the focus is really on an object or something, I think that it's good to have something to begin to start with. I don't know if I'm going to just shoot reference of this as is, or if I'm going to try to dress it up or do anything with it. I'll have to kind of think about it a minute. But I'm probably going to have, now that I have this, I'm probably going to sketch a little bit of general ideas and then shoot a bunch of pictures of my hand holding this and trying out different things. I feel like my sketching process is blended into my reference process, and a lot of the time I like to go exploring and finding things and then see how that influences, like start with an idea and then go exploring in the reference and kind of go back and forth between the two and see where it takes me. So I don't have a real clear idea as to what the ultimate design of this is going to look like, but this is definitely a good beginning point to start to put something together. So I'm trucking along on these and pretty happy how it's coming so far. I'm right now doing pencil, and I'm still just kind of figuring out these robots. The design of them is very abstract in the style guide, and so I'm just trying to kind of wrap my head around it. It's a little outside my comfort zone, but I'm liking where it's going so far. I think the style guide discusses that they also wear lots of fabrics, and so I'm just trying to kind of incorporate, thinking like Gavel, you think judges' robes, trying to do that in a way that's not, too on the nose, but I think that I'm pretty happy with how these are going so far. The thing that I haven't started to tackle is designing the gavel itself, which I guess I'm hesitating on that just because I feel like if I work on the robot design first, it's a little less critical, and I have more, like, there's really, the reference for the robots is pretty vague in and of itself, but at least it's kind of a starting point. With the gavel, it's really just something that makes sense, that fits in the general vibe and theme of the design of the world. And so I'm still kind of getting to know that, and I think that starting with the supporting elements of the piece will help me kind of get in a rhythm, and then I can start working on the gavel design from there. So right now, as a stand-in, I just have it based on the actual gavel prop that I've got here, but I definitely will be jazzing that up a bit. For the sketches, I have these watercolor blocks, which I have taped off and put on a gesso layer and then a cadmium red acrylic layer, and then transferred with tracing paper transfer my drawing onto these blocks, covered that with acrylic, and now I'm just going to sit down and with oils go over top with just titanium white and lamp black, and the red ground shows through a little bit, and that's what gives my sketches that kind of red, black, white look. Occasionally I'll do color sketches, but usually that's how I do it, and that's how I'm planning to go with these. So I'm going to sit down and do that right now. Normally I do a lot of prep and referencing and very really like solving a lot of problems there before I even start to do the painted sketches. And in this case, my reference is a little looser than usual, and there was a lot of redesigning in the drawing phase, turning the figure into a robot, embellishing the gavel, and I think that left me with more questions than usual about how is this all going to translate? How are the forms and the tones all going to work? And so it was really valuable to me to get some time to really kind of explore that. And I feel pretty happy with the result. So at this point, I'll turn that in. If there's any notes, usually things are pretty minimal at this stage, but we'll see, you never know. Hopefully I'll be able to just get into the finished piece real soon. I turned in the sketch yesterday. I just got back an approval from the art director that this piece is good to move forward, no notes, so that's great, and I'm looking forward to jumping in on it. So I have the painting down on the panel now, and I'm getting ready next to do just a quick tonal block in. Sometimes I feel like there's all this lead up to the painting in the design, the arrangement of the composition, figuring out all of the placement and shapes and all that kind of thing, and gathering my reference and all this stuff. And then when the actual painting begins, it starts in this series of little tiny baby steps. So the well, here's the sketch. I just have some of the pieces with me so far. And in this particular case, the reference was so loose and general compared to what I usually do. This is what I'm going to be using. You can see there's parts of the sketch in my printed reference here. And the photo reference itself, it's got the gesture, and definitely it's helpful for lighting, but a lot of the what the actual substance of the piece is extrapolated quite a bit from that. And so when that's transferred to the panel, I decided to go 12 by 16 on this piece, just the nature of it being such a close-up on this item. I didn't really want to go bigger than that. I think that this is the correct size for the painting. And doing this, I took my original line art and projected that onto this surface and then just redrew it in paint. So what I'm going to do now that I've got my reference printed and I've got my painted sketch and I've got my panel with this really kind of just what I've heard some artists call landmarks, or just this kind of structural drawing, is now I'm going to go in similarly washy and just put down a little bit of tone. And it feels like a lot of wasting time maybe as I describe it, but the reason that I do all of this way is as I'm building up these layers like a little bit at a time, it doesn't take a lot of time for this to dry because I'm putting it on thin. I'm actually using a Galkid medium, which speeds up the drying time also. So I can put this on. Maybe I won't be able to paint on it tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow, I'll be able to jump on into this. And I I think about 2 weeks to deadline on this piece. So I'm really not concerned about that little bit of extra time there. But that lets me put down just a little bit more information that I can paint on top of. And having that underneath, like just to begin with, having this line work underneath really lets me move about the painting as I'm painting it without losing the shape and proportions of what I had originally planned out here. So I decided to grab a second camera and make some notes, thoughts I'm having kind of contemporaneously with the piece as I'm painting. Because sometimes if I narrate what I'm doing later, it's a little different from what I'm doing in the moment. I don't know how this is all going to work with the recording being in time lapse, but in any case, maybe I'll just cut this in between. But as I'm putting down, right now I'm just doing an initial color lay-in. I'm doing this really thin and washy, and my intention is to put this down and then work on top of it very soon afterwards while it's still just a little bit wet. And this just kind of helps establish and guide the piece going forward. Now, the piece is for a colorless mana artifact, and the style guide didn't really give any indication for this robot that's holding this gavel to be of any particular color, or there's some notes on it being aligned with Pinnacle, but Pinnacle in the style guide also doesn't seem to really have a strong color presence. It seems fairly neutral. So I'm going to do this piece. The robot is going to be probably a neutral, light, kind of whitish tone, and the setting, everything is going to be very neutral, I believe. The glowing bits are going to have this kind of teal cast to them, which is something that in the style guide, the robots do have these kind of like glowing teal bits. This is all very general, but I like the concept, and so this is what I'm going with here. And the rest of the scene, yeah, I think it's really just going to be blacks, whites, and grays for the most part. But I want it to still have chroma to it and still have some kind of color. So to me, when I'm painting things that are supposed to be white, I like to do that using a variety of colors in subtle ways. And starting out by putting down this kind of modeled collection of pinks and teals with little yellow accents here and there is, for me, and some little bits of blue also. For me, that's a good starting point to take this forward. And the background is probably going to be similar, but more kind of gunmetal or something like that, more gray. I don't know. Figuring it out as I do it here. But I'm liking this direction. And then the mallet, I think, is going to be kind of like almost like a black chrome. So that's really going to have very little color going on in it. It's going to be more about the value and texture with little hints of color here and there. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, yep. This looks good. So I took a few days and stepped away from this piece. And when I came back to it, it was like something was just not quite there yet. I ended up actually consulting with a couple other artists who are also working on magic. So we're all in the same NDA and we can kind of share work and give each other notes. And I got some feedback from them that helped me kind of take it to the finished spot here, which was um, really just creating more separation from the gavel and the robot, which I was having feelings like something wasn't quite working there, but it was actually really helpful talking it out with a couple other people to put a finger on like what is gonna help pull that together. And so I ended up actually increasing some of this teal glow around the gavel, which did a couple of things. It created more contrast, and it also helped to bring some of the value in the upper arm here was a little too high, helped to bring that down. And then additionally, I added a little bit of these copper tones from the background here into part of the gavel in the center there. And I think that that was also really important to help create more separation and give it just more visual interest than it had before. It was a little too monochromatic before, I believe. So I'm really happy with it. I have uploaded this and sent this off to the art director, to Zach at Wizards, and hopefully, I expect it'll probably just get a full approval. If there's any notes, I will come in and add an addendum on here, but I think that this is it. I think this piece is all done and good to go, and very happy with how it turned out. It was a fun one and a little bit outside my wheelhouse, but I'm very pleased with the end result. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.